Me, 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 me. I think that's good. Hello, everyone. It's Medne here, and welcome back to A Midsummer's Night Choice. Last time we were reading part one, which is Act one, and I think if I remember correctly, they had two scenes in it. So this time we are reading Act two, and I don't know how many scenes are in this act. So hopefully you are joining in directly after watching the first video. If you are not, I'm gonna do a little recap. So in the first episode, I was going out with my dear friend jokester Prenzy, and because of that we were missing father's meeting. He were asking us to meet him, so I were very late, like an hour late I think even. Then I went to him and he said to me that he has this great plan of making kingdom better and wealthier if I marry a guy which is coming from a different place, and this guy is like pretty old and has like all the hair going out already, and so he wasn't a good choice for us anyway. So because of this choice make us to marry this dude, we are definitely not agreeing with this, and with the help of Prenzy and the other friend we have, which I forgot was called, I guess Martha or Maria. I think it, if I remember correctly, it started with M. It's been a little while since last time I read it, so forgive me if I said the name wrong. So now we are in this mysterious enchanted forest, and we are sitting together with Prenzy. We lost our third friend along the way somewhere. And yeah, and I started to scoop out the area. It became very late. We were walking for a while and we couldn't find a place where we had to meet the friend. So we just figured out to camp in the place, make a campfire and all that stuff. I don't know if we even made a campfire, but we figured out to rest for the night, and then we had sudden attack by a ferocious looking bear. So this is where we are continuing our second act, which is called soliloquies, or I would say it's a very fancy way of saying monologues. Just learned that word as well, so if you don't know it, ha, joke's on you. I didn't know either. Had to look up how to pronounce it. So let me get into it. Alright. With a ferocious growl, the massive brown bear springs towards you and rears onto its hind legs, clearly prepared to attack. The evidence of dozens of the other battle scars the fearsome beast, and it eyes you with a mixture of anger and contempt. Heart pounding wildly, you cast about for an escape. But there is no escape, no tree to climb, no handy sword lying about to do battle with, and no convenient pot of honey to distract it with. It comes down to this: you against brutish, savage nature. With only seconds to decide, how do you save yourself? So, depending what this bear is like, I don't know if this is all real or not, but there is like this specific things that you are supposed to do if you have a specific bear attacking you, so you wouldn't want to like play dead for a like polar bear or something, but playing dead for a brown bear would work. I might be wrong, but I remember there was something similar to that. Anyways, we have three options. Play dead, I sing to the bear to try to calm it down, I scare the bear away. Definitely not scaring away is not gonna work, I think. I mean, the most famous one is playing dead. I myself would probably try that. So let's go for the playing dead. Remember earlier how we told you that the first two chapters are available for free? This is the end of the free. Oh, so this is where I need to start paying for stuff. Like, I was so close to this, I didn't know. Alright. You think the playing dead is the right way to deal with beers? Deal with beers? Seriously? When was the last time I drank a bear? Now I'm messing up all the things. You think the playing dead is the right way to deal with bears? its cubs must be around here, or maybe you simply startled it. If you play dead, the bear will think you are no threat. What is your preferred style of playing dead? Ooh, we have even this kind of depth of choices. Um, I do it in accordance with the method found in the complete book of bears and how to survive their attacks. Attacks. Mine is a tragic death. I swoon. Oh my god. Vicious bear. I can't. Oh, I'm losing my mind. I'm swooning. You swoon. Remember, when in doubt, pass out. You sigh and say, me, and then fall in a charming heap on the forest floor, hoping that the bear will take pity on you, which is, of course, the point of playing dead, yes. As you lie there, a pathetic corpse on the ground. Hey, how dare you call me a pathetic corpse? I mean, yeah, I look dead, but pathetic? Excuse me? You think you see the bear shed a single tear. Really? Is it some sort of like a smart bear or something? You recall how in stories sometimes bears take mercy on fallen heroes and heroines who they come upon in the forest. It looks like you have found one of those sensitive bears, luckily enough. Whew, thank goodness. Finally, after observing you for a moment, the bear dips its head in respect and walks away shaking its head, probably in recognition of how cruel the world can be. It's probably dabbed, like, imagine, like, dips its head in respect, like, it dabbed, and be like, okay, I'm out, you dead, I respect. After you're certain that the bear has left you, get up and dust yourself off. You are safe for the moment. What if it, like, turns around and be like, oh, you tricked me? You look around for Prenzy, but this is confusing. You don't remember seeing that pile of rocks or that patch of oxlips blossoming. How is it possible that you could have gotten so confused and turned around? Where are your things? Was that mossy boulder there before? You thought you remembered a really big tree in the clearing, and there is indeed a big tree here. You walk in circles for a bit, past small patches of wildflowers and the occasional clusters of mushrooms. No, that doesn't look familiar. You consider your surroundings, trying to remember whether the trees were really quite that close together earlier. An amused squirrel watches you from a low branch as you examine the ground for footprints. Want to say footsteps. Finally, you are forced to admit that you are lost. I'm lost, guys. You wander around trying to get your bearings, but it's dark, and you become disoriented. Where could Prenzy be? You wish she were here. She would probably have something witty to say about bears and losing your bearings. The thought makes you smile. You have a few options. You can shout for Prenzy, although that might alert anyone else nearby, or you can search quietly hoping that you happen upon her. The safest thing, though, might be to find a place to hide and rest, and hope the Prenzy is doing the same overnight. What do you do? I think it's not very good to just wander around in the darkness, because I can wander in so far in and get lost. So, and also yelling. They did have a good point about yelling, so... yeah, I'm gonna rest and find her in the morning. You slide under a pile of leaves, hoping the Prenzy is alright, and try to rest. You tell yourself that you're doing the right thing, that you will need your strength and clear head in the morning, but as you fall asleep, the wind seems to echo with the sound of Prenzy's voice, faintly calling your name. Oh. You drop off into a fitful sleep filled with uneasy dreams. What terrible nightmare do you have? Do you think she actually called us? It would feel so awful if she actually did. I hope it was just wind and just like our unconscious mind is like, how dare you fall asleep? You could have looked for her, but... Okay, father is yelling at me. My wedding... Okay, wait. What terrible nightmare do you have? Okay. My wedding with Lord Pendergast. Being eaten by a bear. Being unable to remove my disguise and having to live forever as a scholar. Never finding my way out of the forest. I think the biggest nightmare would be being eaten by the bear. Like... Okay, unable to take off that disguise would also be awful, but... So I'm gonna be saying about the bear. Your night is filled with terror as you relive your encounter with the bear, except that in your dream the bear is in 10 times larger and the earth shudders as the bear leaps at you. Oh, that's even worse. You startle awake, trying to banish the nightmares that have tormented you. It is morning and the birds are singing. Surely you will be able to find Prenzy now. Yes, surely. You brush some dirt and leaves off you, stand up and look around, trying to pick a direction to walk in. The morning is breezy and the fresh smell of the forest fills your lungs. It surely is fresh. What can I say? That's when you hear it. Someone walking. You slip behind a tree and peek around it. Oh my god, it's Morgan! Thank goodness! Morgan is holding a few delicate purple flowers. She gazes at them with a pencil look in her eyes and then inhales her perfume, their perfume. Leaning against that slender tree, she idly braids the flowers together for a time and then tosses them away to be carried off by the wind. Aw, that's super cute. So too is this life, Morgan says, long, shiny hair whipped about by the breeze. She begins to pace. Ah, me, she cries. Naturally, Morgan is wondering what has become of you, but her expression looks more complex than that. You wish you knew what she was thinking about. Smiling, you decide to see if Morgan will recognize you in your disguise. You approach Morgan at once and greet her. Yo, what's up, Morg? That came out awful. Morgan looks up at your approach. Good morrow, poor scholar, Morgan says with a smile. What brings you from your studies and your books? Perhaps you weary of philosophy and long to take your rest here in the woods? So Morgan doesn't recognize you at all. How intriguing. You smile back at Morgan and nod. Mm-hmm. I'm a traveler on a journey to visit the palace of the Duke of Upper Fogsworth. But I strayed from the path and found myself within these woods. What good fortune to meet you here. That's my boy voice. Doesn't sound so boy actually. This is too good an opportunity to miss. Since Morgan has no idea who you are, this is perfect opportunity to draw her out and have some fun. Oh no, that's like tricking people. I mean, okay, if she takes it as a joke, then that's fine. What if she doesn't though? What if she falls in love with the boy scholar guy? That would be funny actually. And sad, honestly. But how should you do that? I'll subtly ask Morgan about herself and find out what's on her mind. I'll use poetry to get Morgan to reveal her deepest secrets. Not a bad one. I'll introduce the topic of love to see if I can get Morgan to speak about the subjects openly. Options. Let's use poetry, because we are a very poetic young scholar. I wonder where this will go. You seem sad, you say. What grieves you? In sooth, I have no woes that I can share. Morgan slowly answers, turning away. You have a few options here. You could respond with rhymed couplets to turn up the emotional register, or you could speak in unrhymed verse, which would be easier, but probably a bit less emotionally affecting. Or if you felt really confident, you could try to weave your conversation into a sonnet. But speaking a sonnet would probably hint to Morgan that you feel passionate yourself. What if she likes that though? I'll do the sonnet, because that sounds kind of fun. In sooth, I have no woes that I can share, Morgan says. I live my days in discontent and fear. Your mind is troubled, but your face is fair. You have a most exquisite ear. Morgan seems a little put out by your ear comment, but decides to press. Why the ear comment though? I freeze, I burn, I drown, I parch. My nights are filled with teardrops. Your shirt could use a little starch. Your ears could use some eardrops. You probably should have thought about that a little longer. You wince and brace yourself for Morgan's response. Morgan clutches her head in agony. It looks as though you may have actually caused physical harm to her with your attempt at worse. Oh my goodness. Oh heavens, please stop, Morgan says. May I recommend speaking in prose in the future? Good scholar, I cannot bear it. Morgan crouches down and picks 3 small wildflowers. She starts braiding them together. Finally, she looks up at you. Much as I try, I find I cannot turn my thoughts from Lady Medne. She's thinking about me. And what do you think about Medne? What does she look like? You ask casually. Oh, she's lovely, well formed, about your height actually. A nose quite similar to yours, and eyes of much the same color as yours. The overall impression of her face and body is strikingly similar to yours in some strange and coincidental way. I don't know why. Just maybe we're just like secret twins or something. Fascinating how strange the vagaries of fate, you say, plucking a wildflower of your own. But tell me more of your sadness. I care very much about her, Morgan says bitterly. But what I want is not possible, and I fear that I will just make her unhappy in the end. Poor Morgan, she's clearly in the thrall of love. Aww. Of course, you have noticed some significant sparks of desire between you two. Naturally, she is trying to figure out what that means and whether you share her feelings. You have to try to make her feel better somehow. How should you do that? Oh, a hard one, honestly. You can maybe make it feel better for the moment, but you're not gonna make it better overall. And sometimes that's okay. Some people need this emotional support when they're going through stuff. So if you want to say something nice to someone to make them feel better, do it definitely. But don't do it because you want to fix things. That's not gonna fix things. Unless the unhappiness is because of you or something. Anyways, I'm going into it too much. Morgan needs kindness and compassion more than anything right now. Morgan needs some frank advice about the ways of the world. Morgan needs to be distracted from her problems by thinking about other people's. No, definitely not. Kindness and compassion is the way of supportness and to be there for a person you care about. It will to be alright, you say. I have just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe, and I can already tell you, you are a wonderful person. You're obviously kind, charming, and compassionate. Morgan looks up at you, looks away, and then looks back at you again. Thank you, she says. That means a lot to me. Really, it does. This is cheering Morgan up, so you decide to take it one step further. Why, when I first saw you, methought the flowers all turned towards you as if you were the sun. The forest is glad of your presence. Morgan laughed. Truly, these are honeyed words indeed, and ones I hardly have earned. Who are you indeed? What is your name? I smile warmly at Morgan, or you smile warmly at Morgan. I'm Artegal. I'm Morgan. You press hands and you notice that she holds yours just a little longer than necessary. Ooh. I'm telling you, she's gonna fall in love with the guy. Oh my goodness, that's so... Ah! You take me so suddenly from my sadness, Artegal. Though I must be alone and ponder your words, we shall meet again, surely. You bid Morgan farewell, but then you double back and hide yourself behind a convenient tree to see if Morgan will say anything else now that she thinks she's alone. You watch Morgan for a little while. She is speaking a soliloquy, but you can't hear it from here. She has one hand on her heart and the other lifted to the heavens. It must be a really good soliloquy. What do? I try to get really close to hear everything, even though I risk being caught. I carefully stay out of sight, even though I'll hear less. I do my own soliloquy. Let's not invade her privacy and stay out of sight. You are sure that Morgan won't see you here, and you strain forward, trying to hear anything. You hear your own name a few times, and then somewhat more loudly, "Oh, Artigal! Artigal!" Oh my goodness. Is Morgan in love with your disguise? That's what I was talking about. What is this? But wait! What was that? You hear a stick breaking, and you look about you wildly. There, poorly concealed behind the great oak, there's someone there eavesdropping on you. How dare they invade your privacy like that? How long have this person been watching you? You see a knight in full plate armor and a maroon-colored tabard, riding a white stallion. He wears a shield on his back, bearing what you assume must be the name he goes by, the Maroon Knight. Did he hear you speaking to Morgan? Your face flushes. Suddenly the knight begins to speak aloud, his voice echoing from within his visored helmet. "Ah, Medne, woe is me!" Just, The Maroon Knight motions to the world with a gauntlet hand. "The noble Lady Medne, whom I have long loved from afar, have become lost in the forest. I fear that she may fall prey to wild beasts and outlaws before I can track her down and tender her my chivalric servitude." Morgan is starting to become aware that something's going on because the Maroon Knight is being so loud. "Since I know I can never hope to win the love of Lady Medne, I shall remain silent about my love," bellows the Maroon Knight. "I will never speak of it to her. Alice, my... Oh, what's wrong with everyone? "Alice, my sorrow," Morgan says from further away. How do you respond? The Maroon Knight is spoiling this very dramatic moment. I suddenly get this attention and then try to shoo him away. Who is this stranger? I walk over there and confront him directly. I may as well say, "Alice, my sorrow." I'll walk to him and be like, "Yo, what's up? Who are you?" You head over to the Maroon Knight, but as you move towards him, he nudges the sides of his horse and begins to stray away, still audibly lamenting. "Hey!" you cry. "Come back here! Who are you?" You start to head after him. But wait a second, what's that concealed behind a branch some distance away? You could swear you saw something sparkle. You sneak around it and take a look. There it is again. Why, it's a tiny sparkling winged woman wearing a short green gown made of gossamer and a helmet made out of what looks like a walnut shell. She is holding a teeny tiny bow in her hand that appears to be made out of a twig. Oh, it's cute. It's a fairy, just like in the storybooks. The fairy seems to be spying on the Maroon Knight, who was spying on Morgan, who you were also spying on. The fairy seems unaware of you right now. Clearly, you will need to go and greet the fairy, try to sneak up on her and watch her. Stay motionless and keep observing her. She might be very aggro though. You don't know how fairies, maybe they look cute and adorable, but they're very nasty little things. You never know. Not catching up. I'm just gonna stay motionless and observe her. Your hiding spot is a good one, and you manage to remain silent. The fairy doesn't seem to be aware of your presence at all. As the Maroon Knight wanders through the woods, the fairy flits behind him, and you follow the fairy. Using what must be fairy magic, she creates sounds and lights in the woods that, unbeknownst to him, lead the Maroon Knight along a path of her choosing. You wonder where she is leading him and why. As you watch a pair of mosquitoes in harness drawing a chariot made of rose petals drive up. Another fairy with dragonfly wings salutes the first fairy. Saluting, Captain Piccoletta? Have you completed your observation of the metal-clad human? I have, say the first fairy, obviously named Piccoletta. He seems dangerous. I advise that he be captured. And have you located the other humans? Not quite yet, says Piccolito, looking around. You hold your breath. She lingers over the tree that you are concealed behind just a little too long for your comfort. Hold on a second, Piccolito says to the other. I just want to check something. But before she can confront you, she suddenly perks up her ears, gets a wary look on her tiny face, and pulls out a teensy silvery flute. She plays a bird call on it, and then hops onto the mosquito-drawn carriage, which zooms away. She turns back at the last minute, and her eyes meet yours. Oh, don't sneak on the fairies like that. She gives you a suspicious scowl and then disappears. Oh, she didn't come after me, but probably something came up that she's very... there's something serious happening. The menacing cries of your father's hunters and the barking of the hounds suddenly echo through the woods. They are close, closer than you expected. You begin to run. You don't know where you are headed, but you run. You duck under low branches and then leap across a narrow stream, but the barking seems to draw ever closer. Panicking, the small forest creatures, as you try to get away, you climb over a series of ruined stone walls and cross a burned-out section of the forest. You have been running You've been running for perhaps 15 minutes when you stop and gasp for breath. You pause for a moment and rest, listening. Let's listen. I can hear birds. You probably hear nothing. You can barely hear the dogs now, and you silently give thanks. Oh, thank God. Yeah, I actually can hear dogs. I'm sitting where you definitely would hear dogs. Like last time you could hear dogs in the background. This time, all's been calm. Thank you, dogs. Good puppies. After running, you continue on, walking more slowly until you come upon a small stream. You have the vague memory that water is useful in shaking off pursuit. You cross the stream carefully and then walk downstream into a lovely forest valley where surely you will be safe. Exund. The Enchanted Grove. Act 2, Scene 2. After a short while, you feel confident that you have successfully eluded your pursuers. You walk with renewed joy in your steps, following an overgrown forest trail lined with searing elms and yews. The forest is alive with the sound of busy woodpecker in the distance, and the sun is shining. A bluebird hops on a nearby tree branch and sings a song of encouragement and hope. Surely you'll find Prenzy again today and make your way out of the forest to someplace safer, hopefully. I really hope so. Out of the reach of Father. The further we go, the better it is. As you rest, you hear a single horse approaching. Before you can react, the Maroon Knight hails you and rides swiftly to you. Ooh, he rides to us. You notice that the Maroon Knight armor has seen better days. It is somewhat rusty and dirty, although his horse and the horse trappings are well maintained. Whoa, Ruckus, whoa! The several swords and spears attached to the Maroon Knight's horse, Ruckus, you guess, clatter and clang against each other as he slows his pace and falls into step with you. Oh, that's a cool name for a horse, Ruckus. I like that name. What's your name? Who are you? The Maroon Knight says, turning towards you and leaning down so you can hear him. He's still wearing full-plated armor with a helmet. It must be rather hot in there. What is your name? They call me Artigal, you say. It's good to see you. We have no real chance to speak before, he says. What's your attitude towards him? Good question. I'm suspicious. Knight usually work for lords. Who is this knight working for? Everything I've read tells me knights help people. I will not reveal my identity, but I will say that I'm being haunted. He seems nice and is somehow in love with me. It might be interesting to encourage him to speak more about love. Yeah, I want to know why, but I also want his help. I think we are kinda safe from them, so I will ask him about the love. It is good to meet you. I say. Earlier I heard you saying you were in love with someone named Medne. Who is that? Ah, the radiant, the sublime, the truly noble Lady Medne, child of the Duke of Upper Hogsworth. I have sworn a mighty oath to her service, and I have admired her from afar. I was content to do so for some time, but now it appears that she is in peril, and where peril leads, I follow. Verily, you say smilingly. Tell me more about the radiance or the sublimity. My love is such that I cannot conform to words, Alice, mourns the Maroon Knight, and that is the sorrow and the joy of loving one so high above me. And what do you intend to do for her? Should you find her? There are no limits. None, the Maroon Knight cries. I understand that she has become lost in this forest. I would chop down every tree if necessary. I would single-handedly search under every pebble. He's so consumed with his speech that he doesn't notice a low tree branch which strikes him in the helmet, almost knocking him off of his horse. You startle from a loud clanging. I'm all right, he says, sounding a little dazzled. Why do you wear such bulky armor, you say? I ask honestly. Do knights usually ride around like that? Sometimes, the Maroon Knight says. I'm told there are outlaws in the forest, desperate, scofflaws, and cutthroats, whom I, no doubt, will have to subdue ere long. My trusty armor will protect me against their rustic weapons. But how do you get off your horse? Perhaps you will help me if necessary and help me remount. But I do not mind spending long days and even nights in my saddle. But poor horse! The poor little guy's gonna get tired. You consider the Maroon Knight with a new respect. Whatever else may be true about this strange warrior, he's certainly dedicated. Why do you keep your face covered? Ah, that is a story. Suffice to say that I have sworn an oath. Once I learned that Medne has disappeared from her palace, I swore an oath that I would never remove my helmet until she was safe. But how do you eat and drink? I ask. I have technique fully worked out, involving hallows, reeds, and mortar and pestle. The Maroon Knight says, This is not my first noble oath, I will have you know. It's my 12th, and before you ask, yes, I have attached my helmet to my neck piece using alchemical glue, so it cannot come off, even should I be captured. Such is my devotion. The Maroon Knight turns and looks at you as you walk together. As he turns, his legs nudges a bulging saddlebag, and inkswell, spoons, and spare horseshoes spill out. Leave them, leave them, he says as you go to retrieve them. I overpacked. Do not worry yourself. Now, tell me about you. Who are you really? What do you respond? I admit that I am not a scholar but a playwright, trying to find inspiration in the forest. I simply stick to my story that I'm a scholar wandering in the woods. I tell him part of the truth that I'm noble in disguise. I think I'm gonna tell him the truth. Because I feel like he's a good guy. I feel like. You are perceptive. I'm actually a noble in disguise, being haunted, but please don't ask any more than that. Exactly, he doesn't need to know. This is the part where I got what I wanted, and I also tell him that I'm haunted, so it's good. The Maroon Knight falls off his horse upon hearing this news. One of his feet remains caught on its stirrup, and the horse continues walking, slowly dragging the Maroon Knight along the ground. Poor guy! You're noble in disguise? Truly? Yes. Yes, it makes sense. The Maroon Knight head bounces off a rock on the ground, but he takes no notice. You are graceful in your gait, and well-tuned in speech. You walk on, now thinking about your gait. Is it really graceful? That's good to know. I'm walking gracefully. Ah! The Maroon Knight ponders as he is dragged along, and then looks at you. Would you mind? You try to heave him upright, but his foot is too tangled in the stirrup to gather you distracted. Thank you, good noble. I'm winking at you, but you cannot see that within my helmet. I understand perfectly. Now, please help heave me onto my steed. As you, the Maroon Knight, and Rucus, the horse, work together to get him back on his saddle, the Maroon Knight wonders aloud. I can't only assume that you must be on a noble quest, and therefore I will assist you on your quest, whatever that may be. Perhaps you can help me in my own quest to win the heart of Medne. This is why we have been flung together. You and the Maroon Knight crest the top of a hill and arrive on a promontory with an astonishing view of the forest. Here, you can see the tops of many trees, and you get a sense of just how huge the forest is, and how very lost you are. I need to rest for a moment, he says. So you sit down and have a bite to eat from your dwindling rations. But the Maroon Knight does not eat. Instead, he looks out at the forest below, sweeping his gaze back and forth in dismay. She could be anywhere. She could be lost and frightened. I cannot pause. I need to move. Dude, I'm right next to you and I'm fine. Honestly, he doesn't know, but that's funny. Before you can respond, you see the ferocious bear again. The same horrid beast you narrowly escaped before running up the hill towards you. What's wrong with this beast? I guess maybe we could be nearby his little cubs. Aw, poor cubs. With your back to a step fall and a hungry bear charging you, what do? I grab one of the maroon swords and try to slay the bear once and for all. I alert Maroon Knight and let him protect me. I dodge at the last moment so the bear falls down the hill. I think I'm gonna do this because I definitely wouldn't want to kill a bear, which is a mother. Don't ask me anything more than that. It's just how it is. Don't want to kill a mother. And I don't want to alert him either because I think he would do it. So I want the nature to be safe and good and sound because we are technically walking into his territory. So yes, it's a good plan. The only question is whether or not you have the wherewithal to stand firm until the final moment. Yeah, that's a question. You were all set for some heroic dodging, but you freeze in fear. You cover your eyes and crouch into a defensive posture. Here goes the fucking plan. Sorry. This may not be the most effective defense, you realize, but it is all you feel capable of at the moment. The bear slows its pace, walks right up to you, and shakes you a little. Oh! Are you quite alright? The bear says. There's no need for any of that. Oh my god, now I feel glad I didn't try to kill the bear. It's talking to us. Oh, sweet bear, hi! The bear reaches up and lifts its head off. Wait, revealing the head of a powerful-looking man with a bristly white mustache. God damn it. I was happy the bear was talking. What is this nonsense? Man with a mustache. Don't need a man with a mustache. I would be happier for a talking bear. Now then, says the man briskly, I'm Constable Growley, the chief law enforcement officer of His Grace, the Duke. He pulls out a tablet and a pen from a pocket that must be concealed in the bear costume and scoffs at you. Pleased to meet you? I say uncertainly. Good day, the Maroon Knight says, bowing slightly in his saddle. But why are you in a bear costume? I ask. He looks down. Oh, yes. I'm on an information gathering mission here in the forest, and I have hit upon this disguise so that I can travel completely unconspicuously. Unfortunately, whenever I try to get close to someone to observe them, or indeed to simply speak to them, they run away. It makes no sense at all. My disguise is perfect, and yet there must be some flaw. It's a bear costume, dude. Oh my goodness. He shakes his head. In any case, I must keep my mind on my mission. I am keeping my eyes open for Lady Medne, who we think has been abducted either by Prenzy, the Fool, or the courtier Morgan. But more importantly, I'm searching for the notorious forest outlaws whom the Duke believes are seeking out to create chaos and insurrection throughout his duchy. He looks at you carefully. Have you by any chance seen either young men or the forest outlaws? Yes, I saw men go that way just a few minutes ago. I gestured vaguely in the direction we came from. That's first option. Second option is I know not this Medne of whom you speak. Can you describe her? And the third option is why don't you just leave men alone? I shout and burst into tears. This is gonna give us away. Can you describe her? I think I'm gonna go for that one. Constable Growly consults his table. About your height, with eyes, nose, and mouth all about the same as yours. Your general build as well, more or less. I say non-committally. Well, sorry, we have not seen her. Have we, Morrow Knight? I fear not. I too am in search of Lady Medne. The Maroon Knight says, I hope that she is found soon, and we shall keep an eye out for those outlaws as well. Very well, then I must be off. Constable Growly puts the head back on his bear costume and bounds into the woods. That disguise of ours is the best disguise ever. Like, seriously. No one really figured out that we are... Like, they're even saying it themselves. Like, we look exactly the same as the Lady Medne. It's just like no one actually figured out that we are the men in disguise. Like, dudes. It's a good thing, honestly. With Constable Growly gone, you and the Maroon Knight continue walking through the forest. Your spirits are high, the forest is beautiful, and you have ever confidence that you will find Prenzy and make your way to the edge of the forest, where freedom awaits. I was trying to make a singing thing in there because I remember the song, which is like the edge of my life, the edge of my life. Okay. As you walk, you see what looks like a small piece of paper impaled upon a tree branch. There are dozens more similarly impaled on nearby branches. I suspect I know who is responsible for this, the Maroon Knight says as you reach for the paper. Morgan, that suspicious noble from the court, upon whom I have kept a watchful eye here, in the forest, was madly scribbling and disposing of paper when I first came across her. You unfold the paper and read. She's like, oh my goodness, she's like writing a little paper to me. Everyone can read it. Morgan! Don't leave love letters around like that. To Artigal, the scholar, my love is greater than the longest book. On that you may depend, for though you read it night and day, my love will never end. Are she talking about men or me? I honestly don't know. She might be talking about us both. But you can love also many people at the same time. Morgan, you are very sus here. The letter is signed. In the hopes that these lines may find you, your poor desolate Morgan, in the throes of love. Oh my. Then, right? Like, oh my. Morgan. Jesus. Yeah, exactly, Morgan. What are you thinking? The Maroon Knight says, reading over your shoulder. How flattering. I suppose. Not precisely how I would have chosen to express myself, but then my own love, Medne, is of a more delicate sensibility than a scholar. I mean, no offense, but there can be no comparison between you and Medne. Dude, we're the same people, but okay, I got it. It's a good disguise, okay? It's just funny to me. What do you say about the letter? Okay. First option, I think it's perfect. I love it. All true lovers should express themselves so and gather all of them carefully. Second, how foolish to leave these where everyone could read them. I shall tear them to pieces. Third, I think this is quite a sweet gesture, although perhaps I'll just make a few revisions and replace it on the tree. I do think it's foolish, but I wouldn't try to tear them up because that's kind of mean. I wish there would be an option where I think it's foolish to leave them around because everyone could read them, but as well, like, think that it's sweet and get them. Then gather all of them carefully. I will gather them all carefully. And I do think it's the poetry. She did put her time and effort into this, so fine. Fine. You take pleasure in Morgan's poems and place them next to your heart in a folded packet. The Maroon Knight nods. Nobly said. He remarks, "Now, onward." After about an hour, you come to bend in the forest path. Huge oak trees loom above, and the wind, which has been whipping the branches about, dies down into an unnatural calm. Even the birds quiet. And you are aware of an eerie sense of foreboding. As you approach the bend, you see a pile of leaves in the middle of the path. Gold gleams within the leaves. On the side of the path is a boulder big enough for several people to hide behind. The Maroon Knight says, "What think you? What think you?" I will say it so modern people can understand this, you know. What do you think? First option seems fine to me. Let's see what's gold is. I stretch forward the middle of the path, cheerily whistling a tune. I'll sneak over to that boulder quietly and see if anyone's behind it. I think I'll climb a tree and scout out the situation. Stay here. We can't climb a tree because of the thing. Like last time we tried to climb a tree and our ropes got all caught up in the branches and we failed to climb a tree. So I'm gonna quietly sneak over to the boulder because that seems the most smart option here. I creep like a creeper, honestly. Over to the boulder noiselessly and peek behind it, hoping to surprise whoever may be trying to surprise you. And indeed, behind the boulder, you see a dainty fairy holding a bow. She was ready to shoot us, honestly. She doesn't seem aware of you, as he's carefully watching the leaf pile in the center of the path. "Explain yourself," I say. The fairy whirls around, losing an arrow at you. The needle-like arrow catches you just under your left ear and it stings annoyingly. "Stop that! Now, who are you?" I say. But the fairy only laughs, and that's when you hear it. Battle cries, the whir of arrows in the air, and the clash of steel as the ambush begins in the earnest. Harsh war horns blare their martial challenge, and high-pitched screams ring out, echoing through the clearing. The leaves in the tree canopy quake with movement as what seems like thousands of diminutive fairies gliding on barrowflies or riding crickets emerge into view. These fairies are hardcore, man. They are a riot of color movement, playing at being regimented, I guess, without having the discipline. And yet, although their swords and lances are minuscule, they are sharp, and the fairies have them around recklessly. Some slide down on cobweb ropes from the treetops, hooting and shrieking in delight. I imagine that's how they sound like. They point at you, laughing, and shake their fists as if daring you to resist. Resist, you human! In the middle of them, Captain Piccolito sits proudly on a saddle squirrel, which rears up majestically. Another fairy salutes her and hands her a lance made of a sharpened river reed. She barks out an order, and the fairies begin to shoot at you and assault you from all sides. You are quickly prepared with dozens of thorns and pierce you annoyingly. This is maybe... Have you ever fell into a rose bush? I imagine that's how it feels like. It's just many tiny little transparent spikes going in your skin, and you sometimes can't even see them, and they're very annoying, yes. You can see that the Maroon Knight, in spite of his full plate armor, is being overwhelmed by multitude of fairies trying to drag him off his horse. Suddenly, you begin to feel woozy, and you realize that the thorns must have been drugged. Of course. What do you do before passing out? I ask Piccolita for mercy. I try to scare off the fairies with a show of strength. I try to bluff them by saying I have reinforcements on the way. I'll ask for mercy. Please, Piccolita, call them off. We mean you no harm. You do your best to appear benevolent as you begin to slump to the ground. Piccolita shakes her head. I have orders from my mistress for your capture. No room for mercy here. You fall to your knees, feeling weak and dizzy from the drugged thorns. Excellent, Piccolita says, standing on your head. Now, tie them up. Gently. They're kinder than the typical mortals. And that's the last thing you remember before you pass out. Ooh, I wonder where we are. When you awaken, your head feels stuffed with rags and your body is stiff and achy. Ugh. Your hands are bound behind your back and you are being half drugged and half carried by hundreds of fairies who beat their wings furiously as they pull you along through the forest. The Maroon Knight horse stands on some grass, munching away happily, but the Maroon Knight is nowhere to be seen. Your knight friend has been taken away to our orchard of manifold delights for now, says Piccolita. You are in grooves softly lit with moonlight, although it was midday when you were ambushed. Oh, it's been like a long time since we passed out. Maybe that's where Piccolita is. Maybe they also got not Piccolita. This is like the fairy. I mean, Prenzy. That's maybe where the Prenzy is. The air is filled with the sound of nightingales and crickets, and the fairies sing along, weaving a harmony into the animals' nocturnal sounds. The trees here are different from the main forest. They seem more beautiful, but also more alien. The leaves are oddly shaped, and the branches gleam brilliantly in the moonlight. How do you feel about being separated from the Maroon Knight? I'm worried I have grown kind of attached to him. No, I do not mind. I'm sure he will have fun in the orchid of manifold delights. I'm glad I do not like he's loyal to my father, and I fear he will find out who I really am. Okay, I think I'm not gonna mind. You have no doubt you'll meet up again before long. Anyway, it seems you have no choice. Come now, Piccolita beckons. Follow me. My queenie awaits. After 5 minutes of walking, you find yourself in the presence of the fairy queen herself, wriggling in a bed made of violets and primroses. Unlike the other fairies, she is human-sized, albeit a human with butterfly wings. She wears a loose white gown and her long hair is woven with daisies. She is being entertained by a consort of fairy musicians, but she waves them away as you approach. The fairy queen sits up and gives you a radiant smile. Ah, very good, Captain Piccolita, she says, and her voice is delicate. Release those bonds at once, she commands. There is no need for such restraints in my presence. Is that not so? Piccolita unties you immediately at her monarch's command, but you pay little heed to the feeling slowly coming back into your hands as you gaze upon the countenance of the fairy queen. You have the strange desire to lie down at her feet and pledge your undying fealty to her. Do you lie down at her feet and pledge your undying fealty to her? Of course! This is the first option. I don't know about that one. She's using some kind of magic on me. I grit my teeth and try to resist it. Not only do I not pledge fealty, I turn my back on her in show of disrespect. I think I'm gonna try to resist and just stand there still. You begin to try to resist her magic with your own inner resources, but then you feel her overwhelming presence softening your mind. You don't know how to grapple with it or defend yourself, and you are forced to bow to the simple truth that the fairy queen is the most wonderful, magnificent creature who has ever lived. You inform her of this fact, and she gracefully acknowledges your undying love of her. Then she smiles, and it is heartbreakingly lovely. I approve of your attempt to discover whether you would be able to resist my power, fruitless though it was. The frailty of the mortal mind is a fascinating thing, but we can speak of that later. First, we must speak of a more serious things. The Fairy Queen smiles upon you. I understand that you managed to spot Captain Piccoletta while she was on scouting missions for me. Most impressive, she says, picking up a hand mirror and gazing at herself. Oh, she's into herself. Then she attacked me and captured me. I did nothing to deserve such treatment. Oh no, I did not spare her. She surprised me completely. I think it is fair to say that Piccoletta and I have not enjoyed that what little time we have spent together. I'm gonna say and then she attacked me and captured me. I did nothing to deserve such treatment. Exactly. My spies have observed you carefully, the Fairy Queen says. They tell me that you are at least somewhat civilized. Good, but do not hold the ambush on you against her. Those are my orders. The Fairy Queen gazes at you intently for a long time. At least she breaks the gaze and smiles. I can see that many people care about you, my dear, she says at last. That much is clear. You are well beloved. Does she know who I am? Probably. Thank you, your majesty, you say. Do you love anyone in particular? The Fairy Queen asks. Moral love affairs intrigue me so. Her voice is soothing, and you feel as though you want to share everything with her, to tell her your deepest secret. Okay. This is the part where the game wants me to know who am I into. I care most about my sweet Morgan. I think I have fallen in love with Prenzy. Oh, wonderful, strange world! I have lost my heart to the Maroon Knight. Shockingly enough, I think I've fallen in love with Piccoletta. I need nobody but myself. That's a very awful way of saying that no one piques your interest. But honestly, I think I'm gonna go for it because I haven't met any character which would kind of tingle my fancies, I would say. Oh, don't judge me for this, but yeah, I know it probably would be very funny to see what would happen if I chose one, but if I try to be as honest as I can in this game, then I would probably go with this one. I need nobody but myself. I'm such an egocentric little bastard. Honestly, no, it's just like there was no other option. Well said, the Fairy Queen says. Although mortals often love, choosing not to love at all is the right answer. Do not love. It will make you vulnerable. It will wither your beauty, and it will drain your heart of blood, one sight at a time. Certainly, I will never love. I, like you, need nobody but myself. Well, okay, let me step away from this little moment and share a little moment with Medne. Medne, little thoughts here. So, she says that choosing not to love at all the right answer. Do not love, it will make you vulnerable, it will wither your beauty, and it will drain your heart of blood, one sight at a time. This can happen only if it's a sad love. If you have fallen in love with someone you can't be with, or you are in this relationship, you have loved someone, and it doesn't go the right way, and it happens to, you go separate ways. That's when it can drain your heart of blood and make you feel very like I don't need anyone and such things. But honestly, if the love is very pure and from both ends, nothing really damages it, then well, honestly, you have to work a little bit to maintain this love if it's pure and both people are feeling it. But okay, it will make you vulnerable, that comment. Well, kinda. Yes, because you are vulnerable to the person you love, because you kind of open up to them and you are your truest self. But honestly, if something bad is happening to the person you love, you're gonna be your strongest because you will want to protect them, you will want to help them, and yeah. So her comment is halfway there, like 50% of her saying is true, which I'm not agreeing and not disagreeing. It's just like I believe, and from my experience in life, I know that love is not just this. And if you are in search of love and you are having the same mindset in your mind that you are this person, I don't need love, this makes me vulnerable and such, it's okay if you are feeling that way. You do you, buddy. But just because something happened in the past and something is really terrible for you, that doesn't mean that every single thing is gonna be the same. And all I want to say is that love can be sweet and nurturing too if it falls in the right places. It could be like this for some reason. If it's a bad love, if you have divorced someone, or God bless if you are a widowed person. But other 50% is actually pretty good. And that's my little rant about this little comment here. But then she closes her eyes, and you see her trying to refrain from weeping. Enough of this talk of love, she finally says. It bores me. Aha! So, this is what I was talking about. She does. It does look like she has been in love, but she has been hurting so much that she have this mindset. It's okay to have this mindset at the start, but I really much advise you people, if you're going through this stuff, try to not linger on it as much and don't try to put this mindset only because something bad happened in the past. That doesn't mean you can't have better things in the future. You just have to keep going, and if you feel like you're having these feelings for someone, you don't have to restrain it just because you're like, oh, love is awful, it's gonna make me vulnerable and all. No, you just let it flow, and you're gonna see that when the good thing happens, you're not gonna think about this vulnerability, you're gonna think about blood suckingness, about drainage and such. You're not gonna think about it, it's gonna be gone. You're gonna feel very awesome, good, entertained, and actually stronger than you were before. Because it makes you go in a good place. If that makes sense. Yes. Now then, I suppose I owe you an explanation of sorts, says the Fairy Queen. Yes, it is obvious to me that there is something special about you. I could use an intelligent human for my ends. As you know by now, we are the forest outlaws. Ooh. Hurrahs! The various fairies who surround the Fairy Queen shout, This land is mine, and all who dwell in it are my subjects. We steal, loot, and make merry, and none stand in our way. Well, there is one who feebly attempts to subdue us. How marvelously ridiculous! In the nearby duchy of Upper Hogsworth, there dwells an obstinate duke, who thinks to oppose himself to me. How foolish! Is he not a fool? I remain silent. I do not underestimate him. He is not at all fool. Okay, we can agree, right? You can agree too. He is a fool. You definitely think he is a fool. Fairy Queen's nods, pleased. I'm glad we agree. He is a buffoon and a scoundrel, but you are quick to agree and passionate in your speech. What is this duke to you, I wonder? As the Fairy Queen ponders, a group of fairy outlaws approach, dragging a heavy-looking sack which they eventually manage to lay at their monarch's feet. Defeat and confusion to our foes! They scream, weaving their tiny fists. We have captured this booty for you today, my mistress. Working together, they tip the bag over and pour a pile of treasure out at the Fairy Queen's feet. You can see that while there are coins and jewels in it, the pile is composed mostly of shiny pebbles, pretty seashells, and pieces of glass. Very good, my subjects, the Fairy Queen says. Now be silent. I'm speaking to our visitor. Now then, tell me all about you. Who exactly are you? Why are you in my forest? It is clear that the Fairy Queen is perceptive, and unless you're careful, she will learn more about you than you want. What tactics should you use in speaking to her? I bewilder her with paradoxes and witty compliments to distract her from questioning me, come up with a devastating insult that will clearly establish my dominance. I speak Piccolica to help me with these questions. Okay. I think I'm gonna distract her from questioning me. The fairy queens may be powerful, but perhaps you can deflect her questions if you are clever enough. Well, she says, I await your answer. Who are you? Do you come from the Duke's court? What manner of man are you? I'm young, I begin, and I have not been a scholar for long, you say, sitting on a large stool at the fairy queen's feet. I'm more than I seem to be. They call me Artegal. Yes, yes, the fairy queen says, looking intrigued. But this is foolishness. You do not answer my questions. Surely my eyes answer your questions, I say. If you gaze at me, you shall see your reflection in my eyes, and surely you are the answer to all things. The fairy queen laughs. Well dosed, she says. I ask to see your face, true face, and you merely give me back my own. But let us turn again to the Duke. Have you seen him? Is he in the woods? For you know I seek to defeat this cruel man soundly, rob him, make him suffer, and claim his land for my own. Interesting. Although the fairy queen acts as though she cares only of the Duke's treasure, you can tell from her tone that something personal is going on here. She has some kind of deep grudge against your father, but she doesn't want to reveal that. How strange. I have a little thought in my head. What if she is our mother? Because there are no mothers around the palace, right? And she's human sized. So what if Duke broke her heart and now she wants to pay back? Interesting, right? That would be a thing. I do not know this Duke, so I cannot say if I have seen him. You say carefully. But why do you seek to defeat him in particular? Surely there are many rich nobles in the environs. She purses her lips. He is a scoundrel of high order, unfit to rule, but I need not give reasons. I know what I know. The fairy queen takes a sip from a teacup made of a lily blossom and considers you for a moment. You shall be a guest of honor here, as I set my plans in motion to destroy the Duke, the fairy queen says. I must be on the move, but I shall return, and I have generous boon for you as well. But first I'm curious about one thing. The fairy queen waves her hands, and there in the air you see the image of Morgan wandering through the woods. Here we see a most attractive young woman, an intruder in my forest, says the fairy queen. You must know that I see most everything that takes place in my forest. You have some affection for her, and why not? She's certainly well shaped. I saw you speaking to her earlier, and I saw love in her eyes. The fairy queen produces a folded letter and hands it to you. I present to you this letter, she says. It will tell you everything you need to know about Morgan. My fairy scouts stole it from her in a daring raid. How mean is that? It fell out of her pocket and I picked it up. Piccolito whispers, oh, thank goodness. I thought they were like really, going at it, but thank goodness it just fell out. The letter is addressed to Morgan from the Marquess of Lower Fogsworth, the wicked neighboring country with which father is feuding. Dear Morgan, I write to congratulate you for your fine work in insinuating yourself into the Duke's court. You will be well rewarded when I claim Upper Fogsworth for my own. Deciding to charm young Lady Medne was a particular stroke of genius. Winning the trust and affection of Medne provides the perfect cover for you at court, and could be a useful tool if war breaks out. Your most recent report on the strategic situation in Upper Fogsworth was invaluable. We must We trust that you will obtain any further secret documents that you are able to lay hands on. Destroy this letter after reading it, of course. Yours, the Marquis of Lower Foxworth. Letter looks authentic as it bears the seal of Lower Foxworth. Well, that looks bad. The fairy queens the fairy queen contemplates you carefully as you read. Mortal politics are very tedious, she says, and yet I find myself strangely compelled by this Morgan, who appears to have some sense. She wishes to destroy the Duke utterly, and it is difficult to blame her there, and yet she is quite a deceiver, having pretended to affection and loyalty. I offer you this letter so that you may better understand this woman who claims to care for you, young scholar. Damn, that's such a twist, honestly. You read the letter again and again. Mortals who deceive in love should be punished, the fairy queen says. Tell me your true feelings about Morgan when you read that letter. What the rats, you say angrily. First option, second option. Morgan thinks she can outfox everyone, but I will not let her get away with it. She's not going to weasel her way out of this one. Even so, she's still dear to me. Yeah, I think the last one would be, because I didn't feel angry about it. I was like, maybe that's what her plan was at the start. She was going to do that, but then she maybe started to feel that she is affected by us in a loving way. That's what I think. Maybe this letter is like older, like before, and now she like finds herself in this situation that she actually cares for me as a friend or lover. So yeah, I think. How wilfully self destructive, the fairy queen says, and yet how typical of mortals to embrace deception whether they find it. Well, fear not, I shall ensure that some small measure of punishment is meted out, even if you will not. Don't do anything to Morgan. The fairy queen claps twice, and her fairy retainers drape her with a translucent and shimmering shawl. What a fascinating state of affairs, the fairy queen remarks. Morgan is working against the Duke. How marvelous! And now I really must be off. My plans are set in motion, largely thanks to your revival. Fairy outlaws, prepare for glorious battle. You please, stay within my groove and make yourself at home. Piccolita, please guard this mortal. With a great pomp and ceremony, the fairy queen and her retainers depart the grove, some riding butterflies, crickets, leaving you with Piccoletta. The moment that the troops leaves, Piccoletta begins pacing. I'm not staying here missing out on our greatest raid ever to guard you, she squeaks. You seem harmless enough, but I have to secure you. Hold still. She speaks a magic word, and manacles made of grass appear around your wrist, connected to a vine around a tree. I'll have more to say to you later, and it shall be a conversation that you shall like not. Wait, what? And it shall be a conversation that you shall like not. Farewell. And she rides out of the grove, her squirrel mount scrambling up a tree and then leaping from treetop to treetop until she is out of sight. What is your best course of action now? I will passionately lament my fate. This grove is full of magic. Maybe I can somewhat tap into it to free myself. Surely I can break manacles made out of grass. Okay, I'm gonna, because it is cool. The magic is cool. I'm gonna try to, tap into it, see what's going on. Maybe I can do something for myself. Now, what was that magic word that Piccolette spoke just before to create these chains? Ah, yes, maybe you simply have to say it again. You pronounce the magic word, but instead of freeing you, it causes another set of grass manacles to appear on your wrists. Perhaps you didn't say it loudly enough. You try again. Don't try again. It's gonna make things more and more. After experimenting for a while with the results, the 30 sets of grass chains are now tightly locked around all of the parts of you that can bear them. You feel pretty confident that this is not how to free yourself. Of course, that wouldn't be me. Honestly, if I saw that the first thing doesn't work, I wouldn't try it again. Ay, 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 game. You make me look bad. Finally, you try say magic words at random, hoping to light upon something useful. After a few hours of this, you give up exhausted. You are forced to gnaw at the manacles and slowly chew them off over the course of the day. You thought at first that this would be horrible, but it turns out the magical chains taste delicious. Sort of cinnamon vanilla flavor. Ooh, tasty. You're actually a little sad when you are done. 'Cause I want more. Now free, you wander out of the Fairy Queen's inner sanctum. You wonder briefly about the Maroon Knight, but you assume that he will be able to take care of himself. Anyway, you have little time to think about him, as you quickly realize that you have no idea where you are. Finally, after hours of confused blundering through wondrous arbors and orchards, you discover a path that leads from the Fairy Queen's home to the main part of the forest. You follow the path and come upon a strangely snowy clearing with a partly frozen over pond in the center of it. Exhausted and in need of refreshment, you throw yourself on the ground near the pond to get a drink. Aww. As you drink the satisfyingly cool water from the pool, you suddenly realize that the reflected image in the pool is not that of Article, the scholar, but your real self, wearing your usual clothes. What strange magic is this? Then, as you watch, the image resides out of the water, forming a person who looks just like you, but made out of snow and ice. "Hello," she says. "I'm Medne." "Oh my goodness, I have a clone?" "No, you're not Medne, I'm Medne. Stop looking like that at once." "This is my name too. It's a great to meet you, Medne. Are you an illusion of some sort?" "I'm gonna ask this. Are you an illusion?" "No, I'm not an illusion," she says. "Are you an illusion?" You don't know quite how to answer that, and you take a step away from her. She yawns and stretches. I literally want to yawn and stretch, honestly. Leaving so soon. You just arrived. The false menace smirks at you and then steps closer and examines your disguise. It must be quite unusual and tiresome to have to stay in that costume all day long, pretend to be a man, and have people look at you and say, "Who are you really?" It is a bit, but once I get out of the forest, I will be able to return to my regular self. For now, it is safer to stay in this disguise. I will tell you what I think. I think this is perfect. Now there are two of us. I think you should go right back home to the palace and say that you are sorry to Father and marry Lord Pontergast. This way I can be free to do whatever I want. What? That is outrageous. Yeah, how do you imagine that? It's awful. Her eyes shine like ice in the sun. There is a whole world out there to explore. I can trick everyone you know. I can do all sorts of mischief and you will get the blame. So you go do the boring, dull parts. That is what you are good for. And I'm going to do whatever I want, she says. I convince the false Medne to be on my side. There is no telling what double she might cause otherwise. Punch the false Medne right in the jaw. Since she's made of snow, maybe I can sculpt her into something more friendly. Now I'm gonna talk to her. You smile at your snowy twin, and she smiles back at that identical smile. Surely we can be friends, you say. There is no need for us to be at odds. We will both be happier if we help each other. I had not thought of it like that. You can help me do what I want to do. And you can help me do what I want to do. You conclude, I always thought it would be wonderful to have an identical twin. So did I, says your counterpart. I'm so glad you happened along and looked into the pool. She takes a step closer to you and puts a hand on your arm. Oh, you say, your hand is freezing. To think you could have been a hideous beast or a lovely bug, but indeed you, and therefore I, am beautiful. The false Medne is standing fairly close to you as she examines your face carefully. First, I stand still and let her look at me for a while. She is getting awkward. I step back. I'm not surprised that she finds my face fascinating. I step a bit closer so that she can have a better view. I'm gonna take a step closer because she seems kind of fun. She touches your cheek lightly with her freezing finger. How odd it is, she breathes. To have no secrets from each other. Your face is my face, your body is mine as well. This is getting weird. I think it's time to say goodbye politely and depart. I'm shocked and tell her in no uncertain terms to speak to me in a more appropriate way. My snow twin is trying to seduce me, and I think I like it. I think I like it. It's funny. I suppose that is true, you say. You are me and I'm you. In a sense, I'm all alone here, unobserved. Oh, what could be more virtuous? The false menace says, lips brushing yours. Lips. Wait. The false menace says, lips brushing your. What just happened? The sense fades to black. The scene fades to black. Oh my goodness. Sometime later, shivering but happy, you get your scholar disguise back on. Did we did something cheeky together? It would be awful. It's like in the Twilight movies. Wouldn't it be super cold icicle stuff? Not gonna get into it too much. The false Mena is smiling and asleep and has been lovely and somewhat unexpected, but it is time to return to reality and exit the fairy groove. Oh goodness, what did we do? It's a very interesting thing to end this scene. You step out of the groove and into the main part of the forest. Your feelings are mixed at the thoughts of leaving the Fairy Queen's Grove. It has felt very strange indeed, and time out of time, but now it is time to rejoin reality. I don't think you're gone, honestly. After this, reality doesn't exist anymore. There we go. Now we have hit the Act 3. Well, this has been a while. Honestly, I did expect that these videos and episodes gonna be longer, because I do like to keep them like one episode is Act 1, other one is Act 2, and so on and so on. Okay, this was interesting. What do you think about it? What do you think about all this? Because this is just crazy in a way, but also very fun. Okay. Well, I will have a little bit of processing to do in my head about this, what I just read, but other than that, can't wait to jump into it. I need to rest my voice, because reading all of this for a while, I can feel my voice being a little tired. Well, I don't think I have anything else to say. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave this episode here. Feel free to join in the future videos if you like this one, and if you haven't watched the first episode, definitely advise you to watch it, because it has like a big chunk of the story of how everything started. You can also feel free to write in the comment section what do you think about the whole story or any specifics you have to mention. Other than that, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's a very long video, so I appreciate every single one of you which have reached the end. And see you guys next time. Don't forget to hunt your dreams. Don't be stuck like Medna in the palace and marry some random guy. So see you guys next time. Bye!